D-Man here. Just telling you, I hope you like this video. So let's get in to the video. Hello guys, D-Man here, doing another review on Doctor Strange this time. So Doctor Strange, I'm going to be doing non-spoilers first, then spoilers. And by the way, if you have not seen this movie yet, there is an end credit scene, and it's a fairly strange one. Pun intended. So yeah, anyways, let's start off with the non-spoiler. So, this movie starts off with something very interesting, but then it goes into about 10 to 15 minutes of slow, kind of methodical, kind of boring actually. Like, just slow and boring kind of pacing. And then it goes into the rest, which is, again, very interesting. So, it starts off with interesting, goes to slow and kind of boring, about 10 to 15 minutes of it, and then back to interesting again, and really cool. The fight scenes in this, um, they're pretty cool. There is a few problems with them. The CGI in some shots looks very bad, and also the like I don't know if it was the theater I was at or it was the actual movie, but some parts were really dark and you could barely see anything. I don't know if that was the theater or the movie itself, but some parts were like really dark and you could barely see anything on screen, sort of thing. But for the most part, pretty good, pretty badass. Uh, that's pretty much I have to say for the non-spoiler review. So let's rate it before I go to the spoiler review. Okay, so between a 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, 5 being average, I'd have to put it at a 7. So it's a 7 for me because uh, it's good, but it still has some bad parts to it, but it's still good. So, okay, so the spoiler review. Spoiler alert. Alright, so let's start off with the beginning. The beginning, we start off with the Ancient One fighting the bad guy of the movie. He stole a page of a book that will that will talk about Dormammu. And Dormammu's like this, like kind of like a demon thing. He has his own dimension and sort of thing. And basically, what this bad guy, he's not really a bad guy per se, because he thinks that what he's doing is right. Because if he summons Dormammu, everybody's gonna be immortal, and he thinks that's the best way of action. But Dormammu's like a demon, as I said, so everybody will be immortal, but in torture for rest of eternity, you know. And he doesn't know that, but he thinks that it's just gonna be great, and everybody's gonna be immortal. And he doesn't trust the Sorcerer Supreme because she actually has Dormammu's power in her, and she lied to them for the whole time. So he's just like, I don't trust her because she lied to me, and now I want Dormammu's power, and I want to save the world and make them immortal. Everybody is afraid of death, but I can make everybody immortal. But Dormammu is obviously an evil demon kind of thing, so he's getting tricked into thinking this. So it moves on to the slow and boring part where he's at the doctor saving people. He's a neurosurgeon, and I think that kind of gives him like a god complex because he wants to save people. He knows he can save people, but he just it's kind of iffy, and it's really slow though, like very slow, slow and methodical, until the part where he crashes his car, uh, and he gives his hands neural damage, and they can't be fixed by any science, and no one will want to try to fix them. So he's just like, you know what? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So he asks this one guy who has his legs fixed, and this one guy says, I went to this place and I got my legs fixed. So he goes there and he meets the Ancient One, and at first the Ancient One thinks he's just like her old student, so he become evil. So she's like, nah, I don't want him. So she pushes him out. But then one of the other characters basically tells her to let him in, so she does. and then they train, and for the most part, he actually learns by himself. Because he reads books and stuff, and he basically advances by his own pace, and it's faster than other people because he's just like, yeah, well, I need to read these books and advance faster. And he questions the ancient ones' teachings, which is always good. Question people when they're teaching you things. You know, it's always good to question people. Don't follow blindly. It's always good to question people. um, but then halfway through, he goes to use the Eye of Akamoto, which is also an Infinity Stone, by the way. So yeah, the Eye of Akamoto is an Infinity Stone, and the Eye of Akamoto has the power to like reverse time and fast forward time, and it's kind of like breaking time itself, and it does it though. And he doesn't have the full power to wield it, but he kind of does. So the Eye of Akamoto, he uses it. The place gets blown up by the bad guy, um, and he ends up in New York. New York Centum, yes, Centum. Uh, and he basically ends up fighting the bad guy and getting stabbed and almost dying. But then he wins because the cape of levitation saves him. And he still has the Eye of Akamoto, which he always has, which most of the time he has in the comic books too. So, pretty cool. Um, so the cape saves him, and basically he gets himself fixed up, but the bad guy's gone when he gets it back. Surprise, surprise. And then the second time he meets the bad guy, he puts him in a mirror dimension, and in the mirror dimension, the bad guy can basically control matter and time. And in the real world, he can control matter and stuff, but not as much as he can control it in the mirror dimension. So basically, the bad guy's starting to kick their ass, and there's two people at this point: Doctor Strange and his friend. I forgot his friend's name. Sorry. Um, but then the Ancient One pops up and saves Doctor Strange and his friend, and she proves that she actually is using the power of Dormammu, which she never told anybody, and that's why the bad guy went bad, because she was using the power, and he was like, hey, why do you use the power and I don't? He doesn't realize that it's a bad thing to do, but the Ancient One was using the power of Dormammu, so we learn that. She fights them, and then she dies. And she talks to Doctor Strange, and she does not name him her successor. She does not say he's the Sorcerer Supreme. He never gets called the Sorcerer Supreme in this whole entire movie. It's like, oh, the Sorcerer Supreme can handle that, and the Sorcerer Supreme can, like, do that. But he never gets named the Sorcerer Supreme ever. So, she dies, and then he goes to fight the bad guy once again. And at the end, he goes to fight Dormammu himself. And he obviously loses because Dormammu's like a god. Well, he's like a demon god, whatever. So he goes to fight him. He loses. And he's kind of just like... But he brings the Eye of Akamoto, so he like reverses time. And he keeps on like doing it, so it's like a time loop. And then Dormammu gets sick of it. And he's like, what do you want? And Doctor Strange is like, well, do this and I'll stop. So Dormammu does it, and what was the cost? He took the bad guys into his dimension and basically took them for the world as of right now. I'm sure in later movies he'll probably come back and try to take over. Unless they don't do that, they might though. It's a little bit iffy. So he takes the bad guys and tortures them. Basically for all eternity because they're immortal now. They got what they wanted. So he does that, and Doctor Strange saves the world. And the one guy, he's like, I can't deal with this anymore. Like, she lied to me, and you just did the same thing. We're not supposed to do this. The rules say we're not supposed to do this, but yet you did it. And he's like, I'm sorry, I had to. And he's just like, I can't. So he walks away. I'm sure he'll be back. I'm pretty sure he'll be back. And then they go back to the Sanctorium, yeah, okay, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And he puts the Eye of Akamoto back. He basically he just moves on and he becomes a wizard. Not the Sorcerer Supreme. He's not called that yet. I'm sure in a future episode, I'm sure in a future movie, not episode, he will be called that, but as of right now, he's not called that. So, and then at the very end, we get the end credit scene, and it's of Thor and Loki. Well, not Loki, but Thor, and Doctor Strange is like, I gotta keep tabs on everybody that comes from different dimensions, like bad people, and that includes your brother. So why'd you bring your brother here, Thor? And Thor's like, oh, well, we need to find our father. So it's leading into Thor Ragnarok. So it's pretty cool that he's like, oh yeah, we need to find our father, and he's lost. And Doctor Strange is like, okay, I'll help you. So in Thor Ragnarok, I'm sure we're gonna get at least a brief appearance of Doctor Strange in it because that's what he said that he was gonna help him. So I'm sure we're gonna get a brief appearance of him. I don't know how long of an appearance, but we're gonna get him in Thor Ragnarok most likely. And also the Hulk. I'm really looking forward to that movie. Hopefully, it's better than the first few Thor movies, but you never know till you watch it. So, as I said, this movie I would say is a good 7 because some CGI on it was pretty bad. There was a lighting problem, but I don't know if that was a feeder again. And also, as I said, there's about 10 to 15 minutes of complete boringness in the first little bit. But it's really interesting. The last part was interesting to see Thor there with, well, he didn't have Loki with him, but Thor with Loki on Earth looking for their father. And it seems like Doctor Strange will make an appearance in Thor Ragnarok. And it seems like it's going to be pretty damn good. So I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna review it, and can't wait till I do. So as I said, I'd give it a 7. All right, so that's my review of Doctor Strange. If you liked it, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And as always, my friends, stay sane. D-Man here. Just remind you to subscribe by clicking here. It works on mobile. Or click here to watch my last video. It also works on mobile. Just remember, subscribe and stuff. Alright, bye-bye.